Yes, after 47 matches come the 14th of July, and one thing's for certain, at Lord's, a new team, a first-time team will be lifting the World Cup. It is the big one. The World Cup final of 2019, New Zealand taking on hosts England at Lord's. You're watching ESPN Cricket for Match Day. New Zealand making their second consecutive final after the 2015 edition. England making their first final after 1992. This is our preview to that big one. And joining us in studio is Dan Vittori, and also joining us from England is Graham Swan. Gentlemen, good to have you with us. Dan, in the build-up to a game like this, especially from a New Zealand point of view, after what's happened in 2015, and given that you have 2 days of prep time before the final, how much will that be discussed in the team building up to this?
Well, I think it's different scenarios because New Zealand had to travel last time, and I think that made a big difference when they played in Australia for the first time in the tournament. This time around, I think they've acclimated a long time ago, and they really understand conditions. They'll be so excited about going to Lord's, even though it's playing England and the hometown support. I think it's two teams that have such an amazing rapport with each other, and both will call on different experiences that have led them to this stage, and they'll both be so excited and probably confident about winning as well.
Graham, I'll just show you some numbers now before I come to you, because both these sides, and we'll show you the record in World Cup finals. Can England be fourth time lucky? That's the big one. New Zealand, of course, that one match being 2015, which they lost to Australia. England, of course, have been there thrice before, all three occasions losing that one. Keeping that in mind, Graham, you reckon the start of this game is bound to be extremely edgy and very cagey?
I'm not sure it will be edgy and cagey, because these two teams, England expected to be in this final. After a blip in their tournament, in the group stages, they found their confidence and they expected to get there. New Zealand are a surprise entry into the final, probably for themselves if they're honest, but they'll both revel in the occasion. It's going to be a new winner no matter what happens. I think it'll be a brilliant occasion. I don't think there'll be the normal nerves. If it was England-Australia or England-India, I think there'd be a lot of nerves around, but both teams attack from the off. New Zealand with the ball and England with the bat. I really hope that England bat first and we get to see Trent Boult bowling at Jonny Bairstow and Jason Roy. That's a mouth-watering prospect. The fact that these two teams played just a week ago, I don't think that really matters. That was a game where New Zealand weren't that fussed about winning, even though that sounds strange. England had to win. This is a game that both teams have to win. I think it's a mouth-watering prospect.
It promises to be a big one, isn't it? Of course, Dan, you talk about the playing 11. The 11 that, of course, decimated India, sent them on the flight back home. Are you changing anything? I'm
not changing anything, but I was slight concern around Henry Nicholls. He was off the field the whole time. Tim Southee fielded the whole time. So they may have a force change in that. They may bring Munro back in, or they could even look at Tom Latham going up the top of the order and bringing in the likes of a Tom Blundell. So I think they'll want to stick with the settled lineup, and I think more often than not we'll see two settled lineups going against each other, but a really confident New Zealand outfit. Contrary to what Swanee says, I think they expected to be there because they have played good cricket for a long time.
Graham, same question for you as well, especially after what England did to Australia in the semi-finals. I'm guessing you're not making any changes.
Look, undoubtedly both teams are on an absolute high. I take it back, Dan. I'll never want to fall out with Dan Vittori. England will not make a change. If everyone's fit, Jonny Bairstow seems to be carrying a bit of an injury. They'll do everything to make sure that everyone's fit. This 11 who've won the last 4 games now, they had to win those 4 games, and they've done that with such aplomb, without Moeen Ali in the team, which breaks my heart, to be honest. But they'll go in with the same 11, and they'll hope to have the same impact with bat and ball early on in that game. I just have to say, actually, Chris Woakes, a massive unsung hero. He has been fantastic the last 2 or 3 games with the ball from the top. Today was no different, getting out David Warner, which, by the way, might be the most popular wicket in the history of World Cup cricket in this country. The place went bonkers when David Warner was out. He has been the absolute backbone of the England bowling attack. I think, as I said, it's a mouth-watering final. England loves New Zealand. New Zealand loves England. It's just going to be an absolute riot.
Graham, I'll ask you the question, just in case there's a slight chance if Jonny Bairstow is not fit for the final, then who comes in his place in that 11 for you?
If Jonny Bairstow is not fit, that's an absolute travesty for England, because they really need the Jason Roy, Jonny Bairstow partnership at the top of the innings. James Vince would come in, but whether that would be the right idea. Personally, I'd throw Moeen Ali in. I'd love to see Moeen Ali in the team somehow, opening the batting. He does it for Warwickshire. He did it for Worcestershire for years. That would kind of work for me. James Vince, when he did play, he was in such bad form that he didn't exactly inspire the rest of the batting lineup like Jonny Bairstow and Jason Roy do. So Hey, he's going to be fine. Absolutely fine. I know the doctor, I know the physio. They'll do everything they can to make sure Johnny Bairstow's fit, because his record against New Zealand as well is spectacular.
I'm glad you brought that up, Graham, because of course we'll show you his record versus New Zealand in his last 3 ODIs. Johnny Bairstow has now got 3 centuries versus New Zealand. And while it's Jason Roy who's been getting the bulk of runs building up to the final, this augurs well for the English team before that big final.
If you're on about Johnny Bairstow, he's just batted brilliantly against New Zealand. And players who've done well against a team before, they revel in that. He'll look at the fact he's playing New Zealand and be filled with confidence. That knock today, standing at the other end to Jason Roy, who just blitzed the Aussie attack, it will have filled him with confidence as well. I think England will be very happy that they're playing New Zealand in the final because of the recent results they've had against that team. But they will not take them lightly. You cannot take any team lightly in a final, especially New Zealand have actually got a very good one-day record against England. But mainly that was down to Dan Vettori, and he's not going to be playing, so I'm very confident.
Dan Vettori, of course, is going to be calling that game in a bit for a time from now. But of course, if Johnny Bairstow likes playing versus New Zealand, Kane Williamson loves playing in England, and these numbers will tell you just why. The Kiwi captain, he's got an amazing average in of course, England, in an away country in ODIs. He's got the best average for a foreign player in England, 22 innings, 1,363 runs, average of 71. Add to that the runs he's got this time in the World Cup time. They've not been easy runs. People around him have been falling off, and he's had to sort of hold back in a sense, because of everything that's happening around him.
Well, I think his record's like that everywhere. You could just you could paste that from copy and paste everywhere he's played. He's such an amazing player, and he's been so successful. And it's the way that he goes about his scoring. He assesses the situation as well as anyone can. And to your point around wickets being lost around him, he realises that, and it impacts the way he plays. And he looks to build an innings. He looks to attack when he requires. If the team's on top, then he'll go even harder. If they need him to pull back, then he has that gear as well. So I think Williamson is the prize wicket. He's one of the best players in world cricket at the moment, and England will look to attack him because they'll see that he can be that foundation, and that the likes of hopefully Guptill can score around Taylor, the 2 all-rounders, and Neesham and de Grandhomme. So look for an all-out attack, I think, when Williamson comes in, and a lot of planning, a lot of thought by the English bowlers how they're going to dismiss him.
That combination with Taylor, especially in their last game versus India, well, at the start it looked like what is Taylor doing? His strike rate is very low. It might impact the team. At the end of the day, that turned out to be the difference between India and New Zealand, who walked away.
Yeah, and it's a lesson to everyone just to wait till the game's finished, because I think the credit that we need to give those 2 incredibly experienced players is that they can assess conditions better than anyone. And they within themselves understood how hard that wicket was, how well India was bowling, and they took a step back. And that goes to the experience and skill of the pair of them, that they can see that. So if they get on a real flat one at Lords, expect them to go a lot harder, expect them to assess a 300-run score, or assess whatever is appropriate and bat to those conditions.
Now, of course, what makes this contest extremely exciting is that both teams have mouth-watering opening bowlers. If you have Jofra Archer and, of course, Chris Woakes on the one hand, then you've got Matt Henry and Trent Boult on the other hand. And if you take a look at their numbers in the World Cup as a pair, bowling pair in power play, overs 1 to 10, Boult and Henry 13 wickets, average 27.84, economy of 4.52. On the other hand, you've got Jofra Archer and Chris Woakes, who've also got 13 wickets, average of 31.92, economy of 4.23. In a sense, Graham, you could say that the first 10 overs of this World Cup, there promises to be an extremely exciting affair.
Absolutely, and the thing that really worries me, and I've said it all along, Martin Guptill is due to come good at some point. And that run out he did to get rid of Dhoni at Old Trafford, if that is the thing that sparks Martin Guptill and gets him 100 in the World Cup final, I'm going to destroy this camera in front of me, because I've called it, and now he's going to do it against England. I will be devastated. So Guptill, seriously, you're in terrible nick. Keep that going, that'd be great. Thank you very much. The real danger men for England, Ross Taylor, he loves playing against England as well. He was run out at Durham, as was Kane Williamson, within the space of 2 or 3 overs. They were very lucky wickets for England, but they'll know that they're 2 massive wickets. They cannot afford to let the superstars of the New Zealand team get in and score runs, because the middle order, who haven't had a brilliant World Cup, they have to be relied upon to score a lot of runs from an England point of view.
Tell us, Dan, then, is Mr. Guptill coming good in this final?
Well, we talked a lot about him previously, and it hasn't worked. So let's just say nothing. let's just let him go. Let's just let him be in his own space. But I think it's just another opportunity. And I think that's what what Martin will relish is an opportunity to go out there at Lords and prove himself. And there's going to be no greater challenge. I think one of the biggest reasons, if not the biggest reason England are in the position they are, is because of Woakes and Archer and their impeccable bowling at the top of the order. So it's not going to be easy for Guptill, it's not going to be easy for Nicholls. Guptill's looked to get himself in. I'd love to see him tee off from ball one, just take them on, step out of his crease, be aggressive. Whatever happens, happens. But I think he'll walk away from that hopefully with a positive experience, hopefully getting New Zealand to a start that they require to pass it on to Williamson and Taylor.
These two new ball bowling pairs that we just showed you right now, how different are they from one another if you had to pick out a difference between them?
Well, I think Archer and Woakes are quicker, and they rely on that pace, and they rely on a real accuracy, particularly in these last few games. Trent Bolt's just a supreme swing bowler. He is one of the best that I think New Zealand's ever seen, and one of the best in the world at the moment. So he has a lot of skill, and that swing really sets him apart. And Matt Henry's a wicket taker. He's probably not as accurate as some of the other guys, but we saw in that India game that he can take the best players out. He can produce balls that get wickets. So it's a coin toss between the two of them. I'm hoping that it's Bolt that separates them just because of his supreme talent.
Graham, just a word on Jofra Archer. Are we in store for another helmet breaker come the final?
Well, Jofra Archer today, I mean, he's had a superb World Cup, but today he bowled fast, he was dangerous, he hit some guy in the chin who, by the way, unbelievable cricket from Carey. You get hit on the chin, catching your lid to stop getting out rather than your head just fall off, which it would have done with me, obviously. He is a supreme talent, and he's full of so much confidence. And going into a final, having a performance like this in the semis, this is what makes it such a mouth-watering prospect. The New Zealand bowlers against India yesterday were incredible. England's bowlers up top today were incredible, as were England's opening batsmen. Either way, it's going to be massive guns playing from the start. Honestly, Sunday couldn't come quick enough. It's going to be incredible. And Dan, you know I love you dearly, but for one day, I'm not going to be your enemy, but I'll give you a big cuddle afterwards. I really hope that England can do this. We still talk about 1987 and Mike Gatton reverse sweeping, for goodness sake. That has to end soon.
Dan, it's a tough one, right? You've got a cuddle from Graham Swan on the one hand, you've got a first-time World Cup for New Zealand. What are you going for?
I'll go for the cuddle. I understand Swanee's point. I think it's two teams and two sets of players that have a real mutual respect for each other, and I think you'll see it when Morgan and Williamson walk out to the middle. They'll be joking. There'll be I'm sure a few handshakes, maybe even a hug, because of that respect that they have, because of the way that both teams like to play the game. They just like to play cricket. They don't really worry about anything else. So, look, can we have a tie? 2 days rained out. We'll both hold the trophy, and Swanee and I will both be happy.
Graham, what do you think about that?
We'll
tie for both the sides.
Share it.
Yeah.
This has been the most friendly preview ever.
Yeah, I'm more than happy. We'll get some T-shirts made, white on the front, black on the... It'd be great.
Graham Swan, Dan Vettori, thank you so much for joining us as we were previewing to the World Cup final. 14th of July, it's being played out at Lords. England taking on New Zealand. A first-time winner will be walking away with that trophy. Thank you so much for watching. Goodbye.
Don't forget to like, share, subscribe, and leave your comments in the comment section below. Click on the bell icon for notifications.